Alrighty, how's it going, everybody? My name is Mark, and I'm going to be changing my name from Mark's Music Place to Mark's Home Studio Production. Home Recording Studio Production. So I think I'm going to change the name. But anyhow, thanks for tuning in. My name is Mark, of course. And I thank everyone that support the channel and tuning in and watching the channel. If you like the content, please give me a thumbs up. Please feel free to write some comments and hit the bell. That way it'll let you know when I post new videos. I try not to just stick to one particular subject because I'm hoping everyone wants to make this thing or their career or their ideas bigger, because really, if you're just making music to do it in your room and you don't want to share with anyone, then in my personal opinion, then why make it if you don't want to express it? Some people have the right to express and create as much music they want and just keep it to themselves, but I think when you have very talented people, the world needs to hear you. Okay. Well, let's go back to the business side. Try to explain this as best as I can. From my experience of learning with record labels, because I was with an independent record label for a few years. That's how I learned it. You know, it's kind of like I gave up my Army career, went reserve to do this music thing. Learned the music industry and said, okay, I'm going back on the Army. But I still did it, of course, on my own. But I knew, in my personal opinions, contracts are not always a good thing. It's helped a lot of artists in their careers because popularity, one thing that record labels were guaranteed to do for artists that was always stating good with the record labels, and they didn't burn any bridges with the record labels, was the record labels became well connected with every aspect of the industry, where artists had to go through those bridges to make their careers accelerate to the level that some of them became mega stars like Prince, Michael Jackson, Beyonce, and so forth. They had to play by these rules because almost every last one of them had contracts. Now let's talk about what's going on with these record labels. What does a record label actually do? A record label is basically a company that, especially a major label, not an unknown, like anyone can start a label, but you could be a broke label. You're not going to be able to do much for an artist. But I'm talking about a label that actually built to have some money, some clout. They can actually sign a check for $300,000 or $1 million if they want to. We're talking record labels of that caliber. So the record label, this is what they're looking at when they look at an artist or an A&R or an artist manager, whatever, that has connection with the record label, brings them an artist to try to get them signed to some sort of record deal. That means a deal means that you're trying to negotiate an agreement of terms for a contract, so the record label can now start financing this artist's career, right? So that's why some record contracts are different than others, depending on the record label has to be convinced without a doubt that this artist is so good they are guaranteed to make us money, compared to most people, 80% that get signed a record label is like a high risk. Well, we'll sign you to a 1 CD, we'll see what happens type of deal. So that way they don't have to worry about. It's like basically an investment. You know, if you watch Shark Tank and you watch Shark Tank and you see that the sharks will be all over something they know is going to guarantee a return on their investment. They're all over it. They'll start fighting each other for it. But every now and then you'll hear some sharks be like, I don't know about that. I'm out. I'm not gonna mess with that. And it'll be like 5, maybe this investment. Well, I might take a chance, but I want to take a low risk. I'll give you your 200,000, but I want a 10% royalty, or I want 20% equity of the company, or whatever the case. Well, record contracts, record labels still negotiate like that. But it's changed. It's all based on how much popularity artist already has. A brand new artist that had just pure talent didn't need that 20, 30, 40 years ago. But the music industry's changed. Now, try to speed this up. The record labels basically, once they get these artists, they sign a whole bunch of artists because they're trying to see which one of them are going to make them money. So they're going to advance these artists money because they know the artist is broke. Most people are broke when they go to the record label. They're broke because if a person had money, they wouldn't take them. Like, I don't need your money. I just need your contacts. You'll be amazed when you start looking at this how connected record labels are to every aspect in the industry. Those connections are now slowly starting to be open to independents, but it was we call gatekeepers. So to make a long story short, I'm trying to go as fast as I can. A record label generally wants to sign these artists so they can gain control of the master recordings, because the master recordings to a record label, they're not necessarily interested in the artist as they are in the product the artist is producing. And the artists need producers to help them produce a product. And this is the reason why a producer has the vision to help the artist. The artist is just going to get the spotlight to perform what the producers produce, if that makes sense. So the record label say, okay, once it's kind of like, I kind of look like this console. It really doesn't matter on this console what's happening with every channel in this console. What's matter, and even on these buses, what matters, because whatever you're listening to is coming out the master fader. That's what you're listening to when you listen to the speakers. You're listening to the master, the main, right? That's what matters to a record label, what's coming out of that master. So, because in the record label's eyes, this is a product that can be marketed in so many areas that can make the record label money. We're talking radio, terrestrial radio, which is basically your 107.3 or your 109 109. I don't think it goes high, 109. I think it's 108. 108.5 or 102.3 or 99.9 jams or 90, whatever the radio station frequency is. Same, with it, allowing it to be distributed and actually manufactured to different such as digital, hard CDs, cassettes, vinyls. All that is designed to that where they can say it can make us the record label money. But the record label can't do it unless they have a contractual agreement. So here's what happens when the artist signs a contract. They have to put it in writing, because the record label once a person signs a contract with a record label, it's like getting a job. Once you get the job, you still got to start producing results to keep the job. So the record, they get a contract. Now it's up to the artist to get with an A&R to find them producers that's going to allow them to get them into the studios that's going to allow them to start recording music. So once everything's done and the recording process is done with the artist, all the tracks that the producer, artist, and amazingly the producer, they get with songwriters. Sometimes the artist is the songwriter. Sometimes the songwriter is a songwriter on their own. Sometimes the producer's a songwriter. But no matter what, once the songs are written and performed and recorded, all those, and it's finalized, it becomes a master. That's why it needs to take, to a 2-track recording, record all the tracks. Then after that, they'll come to the mixer, mix everything, make a 2-track master, and the master would of course, go to mastering studio. The studio makes the final the mastering studio makes the final master ready for manufacturing and distribution. That is the master. The master is then contractually given ownership to the record label. So because of that contractual agreement of the artist that signed that contract and said, okay, whatever I make, once it becomes a master, I don't own it. Now the contract will allow the artist to perform those tracks, because a performance is different. And they'll say, okay, well, we'll license the performance out to the artist to be able to perform this. That's how they're able to go and do performances to concerts. Well, with all that being said, the reason why the record label wants to own the master, and there's a timeline. Sometimes it's, sometimes the contracts say, well, if we end our contractual agreement with the artist can buy back their masters, because then the artist can take their own the music that they produced in the studio, and they can get their own publishing company and distribute their music, license their music out. What's the best way that makes sense? Let's say you buy a DAW software like Studio One, or Cubase, or whatever, Reaper. Well, you're actually not buying the software, you're buying a license to use the software. Well, you can't use the software if they don't let you download the software. That's why some people will let you use it for free as a trial offer. You can use it for free for a trial, but then after that, after the extended period, they lock the software. It's all embedded in the coding. The license that you buy unlocks the software. That's why you have to pay your $150, $200, $350, $70, whatever it costs. You're buying a license to use the software. And some license, what they call EULA, End User's License Agreement, allows you to use the software. If you buy a one-time license, is a lifetime use. Some make you renew it. They only let you buy it for a year. You got to look at the End User License Agreement, EULA. That's why you got to pay attention to that whenever you load up some software and it says, do you agree yes or no to the terms? You got to read the terms. Most people don't really, they just skip, because it's so anxious to use the software, they forget all that, and it's that big long, you got to scroll down on the page and finally say accept, and just to get to, so you can get through the whole entire loading process so you can start using it. Well, you might have failed to read the End User's License Agreement that says if you fail to update to newer versions or whatever, we can lock the software after like 5 years or whatever, or we don't have to support the older version, because your software will become an older version. It's stuff like that. But anyhow, that's what the performance rights allow. So they have contractual agreements that allow the artists to use the music they record. That's why it's kind of like, as an independent artist, we don't worry about letting a record label own your music that you produce, because you own it, because you don't give up your masters. So anything that you record in the DAW is just in the DAW until you print off a final master that you're going to put out on the internet. whatever you put on the internet, that's the master. As an independent artist, you own the master. But on record label contracts, if you try to put that, if you try to go into a studio, produce it, print it, and everything else, and then distribute it without the record label, your contract says they can automatically take ownership of it. You gotta be careful with some of these contracts, because some of your contracts say even your performance name that you use to perform in front of people can now become. They can actually use. Let's say it's your given. It can be your God-given name, what's on your birth certificate. Let's say you perform under your name. The contract says if you perform on stage using your regular name, they can take license of your name because it's a performance name. So you got to be careful of these contracts. You got to read these contracts, these exclusive and non-exclusive agreement type of contracts. What's proprietary to the record label and what they're going to say. And don't be so quick, because you know what they'll do. They'll try to put money in front of your face to keep you from reading the contract, or they'll try to high pressure you to read the contract, because you sit back and read the contract. Some people say, well, there's a lot of legal terminology in it I don't understand in the contract. Proprietary, exclusive, non-agreement, contractual, with extended, whatever the term. They'll try to use all these high terminology term words to confuse you, when they're basically saying, look, we want all ownership no matter what you do, or whatever the case. So with that being said, I just wanted to throw that out there of what's really happening, because the reason why the record label do this is so they can make money, because they have to pay for every other artist. Think about all these pictures I got on the wall. Imagine every picture in this wall is an artist signed to a record label, the same record label. Well, one of these artists, they're not going to be able to, they're going to get with producers, and it's up to the producer. Even though they can have a songwriter most of the time will write lyrics. Sometimes some songwriters are musicians, and they can create songs on a guitar or keyboards or whatever, and they'll come out with the basic idea, but the producer has the vision to turn that into a record. He knows exactly what musicians to use, what keyboard players, what drummers, what guitar players, what musicians. He knows exactly what studio is going to produce the best results, he or she, and so forth. So they can take that songwriter's vision and turn it into a way that makes it sound like it's going to be a hit. This is what the producer is thinking. This doesn't always work. Sounds great in your head till you actually get it in here, in the console or in the software. And then it might not come out like you expected. And the artist may, artists, because the artist is there just to perform. The singer, the rapper, whatever, the artist is there to perform. Even the musician, they're there to perform. Unless the musician is a songwriter. Sometimes the contract says that the songwriter don't have contractual agreement to write their own songs. It's just because it goes deep into why someone said, well, I got great ideas for songs. Yeah, but you don't have a proven track record of selling music. You got to remember, it's kind of like those movies. This ain't personal. It's just business. It's not, you can't take it personal, because you got to look at it. It's kind of like a person that comes up with design shoes for Nike. You think Nike's designing those shoes? No, they have people designing it for it, but Nike still owns the patent designs to those shoes. They own the trademark, even though there's people designing the shoes. They're any design, they have a contract with Nike to say, okay, any shoes you design become property of Nike if we use it. That's in their contract. Same thing with someone that comes up with a food idea for a restaurant. It just goes on and on, no matter. This is a business. So what I want to wrap up the video is, so now you're getting an understanding of the artist, the record label, the producer. Now what's the manager doing? The manager is basically there to guide the artist. That's what the manager's doing. The manager's trying to find, a lot of times the artist manager is trying to help the artist develop, get them connected with the right dance choreographers, get them connected with the right photographers to do photo shoots. The manager is trying to talk to different vocal coaches, vocal producers, and whatever. That's what the manager's doing. The producer's taking all the songs that the artist and the producer are agreeing upon and basically trying to turn them into hits. This is why people like Quincy Jones is so successful. He knew how to take a songwriter's song idea and turn it into a hit with the right artist. It's like the reason why Michael Jackson became so successful with his Living Off the Wall and his, Thriller album and so forth, because Quincy Jones pushed Michael Jackson to that next level. Producers do that with, whatever artist it is. The record label, like I said, overall, the record label usually have the money because they have so many artists producing money, and because their contract agreement says, okay, you have to look at how much percentage of sales of everything goes to an artist compared to what goes to the record label. And that's usually they come up with this point system. 1 point, 2 point, 3 points off the, whatever it can. That's a percentage. 1 point. The typical point rate would be like maybe 8.1 cents off the dollar. Right? So you do the math. So they had 3 points, that's 24.3 cents. So, that's where you do that math times, if an average CD was $10, you do the math. So if it was 8 times $10 or 8 times 10, what's 8 times 10? 80 cents, right? Off a $10 CD. Well, you do the math. So you $2.40 off a $10 CD or whatever. Whatever the artist got. Producers get a certain percentage and so forth. But it was a point system. That's my ice maker. Dropping ice it just made. So you have to look at now how things have changed. This is the reason why I said in the end, the reason why publishing and owning your masters is so important, because this. Whoever owns the masters can license the music to allow it to be streamed to other sources other just than being played on the radio or video, whatever. They can attach it to a movie. They can attach it to a radio. They can attach it to a commercial. They can attach it to... These are all sync licenses and performance rights licenses, as well as that stuff can be distributed on hard copies like a DVD or a Blu-ray or whatever. Now we need mechanical right license. This is the reason why whoever owns the licenses, meaning whoever owns the publishing, can publish it. Well, the artists don't own their publishing because they don't own their masters. So when it's all this music, especially if the song is an extremely popular song, this is why artists need to understand publishing. This is the reason why artists need to understand why they need to be assigned or affiliated with a PRO, performance rights organization. They're tracking the performance, whether it's performance means is being played, whether it's being played live or pre-recorded. A performance is a performance. So the sound recordings versus the performance and all this. So I'm going to end the video. I hope that's a brief understanding that you have to look at the record labels and what they're going to do. The record labels, another thing that was giving record labels an edge over independent artists is because they were connected to every award show. They were connected to every distribution place out there. You're talking all the record stores, Walmart, uh, K-Tel Records when that was out. Any place that sold records or CDs or cassettes or vinyls or whatever, like Target, Walmart, Best Buy, and all these places that would sell physical hard copies. They could get it distributed to including overseas, because all these record labels are connected. They're connected to almost every program manager that plays stuff on the radio, including program managers that play videos on VH1, BET, MTV, and so forth. Everyone, because the reason why most people establish these reputations and relationships with record labels, because record labels had an edge of having all the top artists. Even though there are a lot of unknown, unsigned artists that are just equally good and just unknown. But, you don't know to go to an unknown because they're unknown. But you do, all these places like concert hall, all these places that book, because an artist can, all these places where an artist can perform, and all these different venues like theaters, in Madison Square Garden, or, Radio City Hall, or, all these places that can put on concerts and all that. Well, those places, in order to be put on these concerts, got to be booked. Well, they're not going to book unknowns. They're only going to book knowns, because well-known artists, because they want to guarantee that they're going to these ticket sales. They're going to make sure that they're going to fill the house and sell all these tickets, these concerts, and so forth. This thing gets deep on how much of what it takes. So the record labels are saying, okay, well, they're well connected. This is the reason why a lot of people can have overnight success, because they can get them in all the radio stations. They can get them connected with all the ticket agencies when they're ready to tour. They can get them on, the video places to get their video. They can, once they're on, and they get all these rotation. In other words, the record labels be connected with the radio stations and everything else to make sure that they get rotated all the time, so people constantly hear them all the time. You're going to get familiar with Tony Braxton, or you're going to get familiar with Brian McKnight. You're going to get familiar with Stevie Wonder, or you're going to get familiar with Beyonce. You're going to get familiar with Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, and so forth. You're going to get familiar with Def Leppard and so forth. Whatever genre and the radio stations and all that, and the record label and the class of genre that of these artists are assigned to, you're going to get familiar with them real fast, because the radio stations and the video places put them in your face. I know who Justin Timberlake, because he's, or whatever the case. And that's how it worked. So to sum up the video, that's going to do it. And I hope that gives you an understanding of what's going on and why record labels want to control the masters. They make money in so many ways, and the artists don't want the masters. That's why the artists don't make nowhere near as much money. Other than that, thanks for watching. Y'all have a great one.